And this week's portion is huge, and it's huge in so many ways. There's so many mega stories in it. There's a story of Abraham sitting and seeing the three angels, three people coming to him, and he's inviting them home and getting his wife Sarah to cook for them and bake, and huge gesture of hospitality. And they're telling him that in a year's time she'll give birth to a child. And she's laughing because she says she's past menopause. How would I? I'm old, my husband's old. God takes it up with her and says, why are you laughing? It's like, how do we trust? How can she trust? She wants, all her life she wanted a child. How could she trust that this is still possible? How can we trust? I mean, let's say, I like to take it into our current life. We're just going to a close down. It's a challenging year. Any plan is subject to Corona. Every plan is unsure and subject to change. And we can't see the immediate end to that time of uncertainty. What is trust for us right now? I mean, what we usually stumble on expectations. Sarah has a narrative. She says, I'm too old, no chance to have a baby. So she has a very clear structure of thinking, a narrative of thinking. Can she release that narrative to allow a surprise? I mean, what is our narrative that keeps us confined in this reality? Can we release our narrative and our expectations that are built on an old structure, pre-COVID structure, to allow new opportunity, new reality to shine through? I mean, so in this week portion, there is sort of all these archetypal women, archetypal stories. One of them is the story of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, and the awful disaster that God brings on that town for their evil. And Lot, his wife, his daughters are rescued by the angels. Another sort of archetypal characters, the angels. But for now, let's look at the female. We had one female, we had Sarah, not believing, and now we have Lot's wife and expectations. There is a huge cataclysmic Holocaust event in Sodom and Gomorrah where she runs away from, and they're told not to look back. Not to look back is sort of not to look at the old construct, not to look back to expect what is for us looking back. We often look back holding on to pre-corona. Pre-corona, I was supposed to be now in Israel and do this and that and that, and have my book finished and published by now. Pre-corona, looking back would hold my energy going forward. And she looks back and she turns into a pillar of salt. Pillar of salt is like it's all such amazing stories. Pillar of salt is frozen, fossilized tears. I mean, that's how I see it. Tears for what has been, for the loss, for the pain and this fossilized tears. With fossilized tears, you can't move forward. I mentioned that I'm a daughter of Holocaust survivors, and they both had this understanding that looking back is a background, but the work is looking forward, because you can't live with fossilized tears, with huge amount of tears. You've got to process in order to move forward. Pain is a source of growth. Yeah, I can see Millie smiling there. Yeah, pain is a source of growth. It's not in its own right. It's not to hold on to it. It's to use it as a source for growth. So Lot's wife is fossilized there. I always feel sad for this woman that is sort of couldn't move forward, and life surprises us all the time. It's just life all the time sort of is ahead of us. We are forever. We have to adjust to it and adapt to it forever and ever. We're always behind life. Always behind a surprise. So there is in this portion, there is another, I'm going through the women, I'm focusing on the women in this portion. There is another episode here, so many stories, amazing stories, of the daughters of Lot. Lot and his daughters run from this cataclysmic event, and they think they are the last people in the world, and they think the daughters are talking to each other, and they think that that's it, they are the last of humanity, and it's a difficult story. They give Lot wine to get him drunk, and they procreate with him without him knowing, so they can continue the race. So what do we make of that? What do we make of some sort of total survival mechanism to continue forward? One of the people that come out of that union is Ruth, the story of Ruth. Ruth, that is the great-grandmother of King David. So one day, from that union would come the Messiah in our tradition. All those sort of events are in this portion, and the story where Isaac is born. Isaac is born a year later. And then when he wins, Sarah, his mother, sees Ishmael. You remember, Sarah is Abraham's wife. She can't have children until now. So she gave Abraham her servant, Hagar, as a concubine to have a child with her on Sarah's behalf. So Ishmael is born. Ishmael is already like 13 years old, 14 years old. He's born as Abraham's only son because Sarah couldn't bear children. Now she has a child. And Ishmael is a teenager, and he behaves badly. And Sarah says to Abraham, get rid of this child. Now she's totally protective of her only child, that no bad influence comes to him. She says, get rid of that woman and that child, and Abraham doesn't like it. And God tells Abraham, they'll be okay, just listen to Sarah, do what she said, what she says to him. Abraham takes Hagar and takes Ishmael to the desert and leaves them there. And Hagar sees her son sort of, there's no water, losing everything. And she goes away, they both cry. What a horrible story. And where is, in that desperation, where there is total desperation, there is no trust, no option whatsoever, God reveals itself and say, don't worry, from your son will be big people, and presents them with a well. They survive and they branch off as the children of Abraham. So all these stories that go, it's in one portion. It says, whoa, all these female characters that all weaves itself around where is our trust? How do we meet life? How do I meet life where there's no options, like for Sarah, there's no chance to have a child? How do I keep positive and hoping? And a child could be a metaphor. It doesn't have to be a real child. How do I keep if my life is stuck right now and I can't see the options out of it? How can I keep the opening to trust that life can open well, to keep a door open, to keep a creativity open? And then Lot's wife that is frozen with no ability to keep that openness forward. And then Hagar that is desperate and life opens up. So how do we keep in life events that goes ahead of us, that is not subject to our ability to control? How do we keep an open spirit that allows for events to come through, that allows for the silver lining to present itself? So